All right, we're going to kick off the P&Z meeting at 6:05. So we've got the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'm going to ask Jonathan, who's going to be our new city manager, to come and bless this place. Yeah, just come up to just do it at the podium.
Make sure the mic's on.
All right. Is it on? Yes.
There you go.
Please bow your heads with me. Dear Heavenly Father, I just want to thank you so much for this opportunity for us to come together to just look at the path forward for this wonderful town, the amazing residents that are in it. I thank you for everyone here, those that care, and I just pray that you give us wisdom and guidance to what would be best. We love and praise you, Lord, in your holy name. Amen.
Thank you, Jonathan. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, liberty and justice for all. Messed that one up.
They changed it back in
Yeah, they did. Oh, now. Okay, President's remarks. I don't have any, so we're going to go straight to administration remarks.
Good evening, everyone. There's been lots of things going on in town. Some good news. You know, we had the groundbreaking ceremony for Tractor Supply last week. Pickleball courts are open. I've been seeing people playing on them. They look really nice. All subs is nearing completion. They're hoping to be open mid-November. So that's getting really close too. As far as all the home developments that are going on, Ashton Home Place has 20 plus plans that have been approved, and they have about 15 homes that are already under construction in various stages over there. The Canyons, last week, they got probably 90% of their concrete streets, curb and gutters poured. They just have to do the cul-de-sacs, the intersections, and some storm drains. So that's moving along really well. Sunset Ridge, they were supposed to start pouring their streets today. I did not get a chance to get over there, but when I drove by, they did have their concrete plant set up, so that's moving along.
Is that this one right here?
No, that's Stonehurst.
Oh, you're talking about over there. Never
All
mind.
right, Sunset Ridge is Business 67,
Yeah.
just west of Old Betsy.
Yeah, got it.
So things are looking up and moving along pretty good, and hopefully tonight we can bring you some more good news.
Okay. Any questions for administration? All right. All right, we're going to move to public comments. I don't have any yellow cards here in front of me, but if anybody would like to speak, now is the time to do so. We have one gentleman. Come on up to the podium, sir, and then just state your name, your address, and then spill it.
Dwayne Barnes, 713 Barnes Road. And I forgot to fill out a card.
That's
sorry.
okay, sir.
I guess I only have one little concern about this project. How can they control the residents who comes in? I did a little research. Illegal aliens can come into subsidized housing if there is one that's legal in the apartment or the house, so they can have 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 illegals with one. And with our election coming up, the way it's going, I wonder if that'll get more liberal. So I guess my only concern is, what are we going to bring into town with the subsidized housing? And that's my only concern.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Like 60 to 80%. That's just what they said. So, anybody else? All right. We're going to move on. So we have number 5 here, general. Review, discuss, and consider possible action on a zoning request change application received from the Kittle Property Group Incorporated for a 21.8 acre portion of the Hugh McCollum, McCollum Survey, Abstract 570, Track 12, within the city of Keene, Texas, from C2 General Commercial District, Office and Light Retail, to PD Planned Development District. The rezone will be based on multifamily zoning with variances of 3-story buildings instead of 2 and 4 playgrounds instead of 5. You want to go ahead and kick us off here?
Sure. At the last meeting, we had a public hearing, and we had some comments, kind of back and forth. Michael Roderer is here from the Kittle Group this time, and he may be able to answer some of those questions. He did listen to the public comments and tried to address some of those in the what you got in your packet. And they also provided us with some updated plans. So anybody that's not familiar with this area, it would be where it says proposed tractor supply, it would be just south of that, where it says the front portion will remain commercial and proposed multifamily would be on the back portion of it. You can kind of see on the map there. And they're going to call this, excuse me, Covington Acres, Keene, Texas, and all throughout here it lists where the playgrounds are going to be. It lists the streets. It lists in the internal streets. It lists the number of units, 1 bedroom. There's 72. Put my glasses on. Looks like 126 2-bedroom units, 36 3-bedroom units, and 18 4-bedroom units. So it just kind of gives you the layout of the site. So the main entrance will be coming off of Business 67. And their plans were to have the access on County Road 317 mainly as an emergency entrance and only for police and or fire or an exit. And they've added the building elevation, the heights on the different buildings, as you can see on these renderings. And this is the clubhouse exterior elevations. And these are some renderings of what they'll look like. So in our multifamily ordinance, it requires that they be no more than 2 stories. So they're requesting, that's one of the variances, is that they could go 3 stories. And they're under 35 feet maximum building height. The other request would be, our ordinance calls for 1 playground for every 5 acres. Well, this being 21 acres, it says, or portion of 5 acres. So technically it would require 5 playgrounds. So they're just asking for 4. But they're also going to have a pool house, a clubhouse, a dog park. So staff feels that would be acceptable.
Right.
Does anybody have any questions?
Mr. Roder, are you available to answer questions? I assume your colleague, Jana Darman, was here on the 30th of September, and she mentioned that you have 18,000 properties, 5,000 in Texas. And so I'm sure you're familiar with the planned development district concept. Basically, the sky's the limit, and you're restricting yourselves to the multifamily zoning ordinance that we have in place. You know, the Planning and Zoning Commission offers no variances. That's purely a Board of Adjustment request. But saying that, all the Planning and Zoning Commission does is recommend or not recommend, you know, to the city council that they, you know, proceed or not proceed with a project. So personally, I would have preferred to see a better architectural plan and a better landscaping plan. I realize it looks pretty well landlocked, and probably couldn't have 1 big playground, and I don't know why we require 5 tiny playgrounds or 15% vacant land when it seems like one big playground would be more productive to, the youth of the complex. But that being said, I don't know, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Yes, I am Mike Roeder. I'm with Kittle Property Group. Thanks for bringing this back to the table this evening. Yes, on the question of the playground, normally what we would propose is what you would see similar to what's on the screen or on the site plan, where we mass what we call our amenity centers. So we have a clubhouse for residents, for our leasing staff, maintenance folks.
I haven't seen any amenity centers listed here. Are there?
Yes, it may not be listed in the narrative, but it is on the site plan. And we would normally have a fairly robust playground, which is also included on the site plan. Again, the main deviation, or why we're requesting a PD, we are meeting the building height requirement in terms of feet, but not stories. And so we wanted to propose a PD after some discussions with Don Martin. And the playground arrangement would be a little different for us. We normally have not had 4 or 5 playgrounds. Normally we'll have 1, but we're happy to include 4, certainly.
Yeah, that's why I say, I mean, the sky's the limit when you're proposing a planned development. So if you were going to ask for variances, you could have just as well have asked for variances, not from 4 to 5, but from 5 to 1, big one, where you could even have a little league team or something like that if you proposed.
Yes,
That being said, I'm not in the business of developing property. I'm just, in the, here to understand the constructs of what you're proposing and whether it fits the city of Keene, which I have no objection to at this moment.
Yes, thank you. And back to the issue on the playground in the PD, we were looking to request as few modifications from the underlying zoning parameters as possible to make the development work. And so we didn't feel that it was necessarily for us required to request 1 playground versus 4 or 5. We were really mostly focused on the number of stories in residential buildings.
Now, the other information I shared with Jenna Darman as an ordinary citizen, with concerns with what had been presented at the meeting to the public, the lack of a second entrance and exit. You've got like a 1,000-foot strip of driveway there that is probably going to back up to 20 or 30 cars at any morning or evening commute. And I'm sure TxDOT will work expeditiously to put in a light there because they'll definitely need one. I explained to her that coming from the east, you've got a flyover that you can barely see the cars until they're on the downward side of that flyover, which is probably also within 1,000 feet of your proposed entrance, if not less. And then coming from the west, you have that what some people call Rattlesnake Hill, and you don't even crest that hill until you're within about 500-600 feet of that entrance. And so, for cars trying to exit that one entrance and exit, it's going to be very dicey. And I would personally prefer an entrance on 317, not just a gated fire lane.
I don't know what was driving the emergency access only to the south. I think, and we would certainly have to explore this with TxDOT, they will probably require us to complete a traffic study, or City of Keene may require us to complete a traffic study. There are usually parameters where entrances to the same property or entrances on TxDOT controlled thoroughfares must be a certain distance apart.
Usually at least 150 feet.
Yeah, we will have to look at that with them. If the city feels very strongly about it from a land use perspective, the second entrance that's proposed on the site plan as emergency fire police only access, we could certainly modify that to be a more regularly functioning point of ingress and egress for the property.
Well, again, I'm not a traffic planner, and as far as I know, City of Keene doesn't require any kind of traffic planning studies because we've got 5 developments, 5 projects in development. And as far as I know, they've never required a traffic flow plan, even though they really needed one. And so any upgrades to those roads that are fronted by those developments will be purely on the City of Keene.
Sure.
Now, since they didn't make any recommendations, prior to the developments being approved, and I was part of that. So, and I think mainly the concerns about 317 is that the overgrowth of vegetation that prevents proper sight distance, and then as well as, narrows and restricts the use of the lanes. But it is, a county road, much like probably several 1,000, other miles of county road in the county exists, so it's nothing special. I appreciate it.
Sure.
Any other questions for this gentleman while he's here?
And I'm sure we're eventually going to get this done, just a matter of time. But once it is done, what criteria, we have a concerned citizen here, Mr. Dwayne Barnes. You want to address that question to him, Mr. Barnes? The one that you made the council, the criteria is going to be used to lease?
Essentially, his question,
This lease section or low-income housing, I haven't kept up on
Sure.
right.
real well. And what would keep the unqualified or the undocumented from coming in? Because a little research I did, if you've got one person in an apartment that is qualified, then you can have others. So I don't know if there's any controls that y'all have set up, who would be eligible to,
Your eligibility criteria.
who would we be bringing into Keene?
Well, Mr. Barnes, if I may, how many dwelling units do you rent out, if I may ask?
About 40.
About 40? Do you use a similar criteria that you're asking of?
Yes, they have to show proof.
Okay, because basically I haven't read anything where there's any kind of subsidized housing being requested or sought. Normally, if there is, the federal government will get involved in that, would they not?
They would, and there's
Thank you,
a
Mr.
couple,
Barnes.
there's a couple ways, there's a couple different issues here, I think, to address. When I hear subsidized housing, it normally implies Section 8, right? Where every apartment home has a subsidized payment from the federal government attached to it. That's not what this is. We develop and build the property, and based on certain eligible costs, it generates basis. And we apply to the Texas Department of Housing and Community Affairs for tax credits, receive those tax credits, we sell them to an investor. Normally that investor provides us with either our construction loan or our permanent financing on the development, right? So I wanted to address the subsidized housing piece of it. And then in terms of the operational control, so Kittle Property Group will be the property manager. I did want to clarify one point. We have about 18,000 apartment homes in the Midwest, Colorado, Texas, and the Southeast that we own and operate. That translates into about 160 properties. And we do have about 5,000 units in Texas. I was actually chatting with your incoming city manager earlier and was explaining that I've been at Kittle Property Group for about 20 years, started in 2005. I started developing for Kittle in Texas in 2010. I think we opened our first property up in 2012. And so with the tax credits, every household, every person on the lease has to demonstrate their income so that we know there's a source to pay the rent. The government's not paying the rent. We have not had, to my knowledge, a lot of issues that the gentleman was describing. I know that what our criteria looks at is income, landlord, credit, criminal, right? Those types of things. And so I would have to follow up with you gentlemen on this specific question about illegal immigration. I am not, I'm not sure how anyone who we require to be on the lease, they would need to be of a legal status. Naturalized citizen, green card holder, something like that, right?
Well, I can appreciate that, and I'm not real certain why the average median income is such a big deal to a lot of folks, you know, that spoke at a public hearing on the 3rd of October. But that being said, it's their right and their privilege to make those comments.
Okay. Any other questions? You have any? Do we, anybody want to entertain a motion?
I'll make a motion. It's going to be an amended motion. I move the zoning request change application received from the Kittle Property Group, Inc. for 21.8 acres on survey abstract 70 tract 12 within the city of Keene, Texas, from C2 General Commercial District Office and Light Retail to PD Planned Development District based on a MF multifamily zoning be approved, striking with variances of 3-story buildings instead of 2 and 4 playgrounds instead of 5. Be recommended to council for final approval.
Why would you be striking those?
Because P&Z doesn't grant variances, sir.
No, we do not, and that's not what you're doing. What you're doing is you're approving a PD based on multifamily with those exceptions.
My motion stands. If they would like to make amendments to their plan development, that would be okay with me as well.
So essentially, you're asking for this to go through without the variance of a 3-story and you would rather see the 5 playgrounds. Is that what you're asking for?
No, I'm saying we don't grant variances. If they would like to come back with an amendment to their plan development district proposal, that would certainly be fine with me, but my motion stands because I've already said I don't see why they need, why we're worried about granting them, 4 instead of 5 when they could have just one big one.
Because it's based off of multifamily zoning, and that's what multifamily zoning requires.
I know, but they could request an amendment, and that could be included in a future motion if this one doesn't pass.
I mean, so this plan could ultimately change. We're looking at a conceptual here that could possibly change, but I feel like they went above and beyond to show that they're trying to put playgrounds in specific areas so people can watch their kids right from their balconies on this playground. They can watch them from that playground. They're trying to implement a line of sight and safety.
And I have no problem with that. You're just asking us to grant variances that that the Planning and Zoning Commission has no control over. I don't know if you understand that.
Well, and I feel like
You
you're saying something that the city is already authorizing us to do, and you're kind of going against what the city administration has already put forth.
I spoke to our city attorney, and he is fine with the wording of this.
Well, my motion stands.
But Philip Jackson isn't, so is there a second on this motion?
Can I do a motion the way it is?
You can do a motion, yes.
Because I believe having a different playgrounds, I work in the public school before, and I know how important it is to have a different playgrounds where everybody go and play to the closest one to their house. And parents, they will feel more secure if the kids are close to their house than walking all the way to the one is designated for everybody. So I think, and I don't have a problem with the 3-story building instead of 2. So can I do another motion?
So you would like a motion with everything included?
Correct.
Okay, well, I'm gonna go back to his motion. Does anybody want to second his motion? Okay, we're gonna call that motion that died of a lack of a second. Now we have Miguel's motion. Would anybody like to second his motion?
Can you clarify your motion once more time? What specifically did you want?
He wants to keep everything as.
Keep it as it
As it is.
As it is.
Fantastic. Well, let's just read it. I motion that we.
Well, he already has a motion for
I'll
that.
second his motion.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to approve everything the way it is. Do I need to read all this, Holly?
No.
You're gonna make me do that? I'll read it. We have a motion to move the zoning request change application from the Kittle Property Group, Inc. for a 21.8 acre portion of the Hughes McCollum Survey Abstract 570 Track 12 within the city of Keene, Texas, from C2 General Commercial District Office and Light Retail to PD Planned Development District based on MF multifamily zoning with variances of 3-story buildings instead of 2 and 4 playgrounds instead of 5, recommended to council for final approval. And then we have a second. Any more discussion before we take a vote? All right. All those in favor with the right hand? All those opposed? Any abstained? Motion carries. We have 3 and 1 abstained.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Appreciate
Thank
your
you,
time.
appreciate it.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. Item B is review, discuss, and consider approval of the minutes of the regularly scheduled Planning and Zoning Commission meeting held September 9th.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes as written.
Okay?
I'll second it.
All right. We have a motion and we have a second. All in,
Sorry, was that, did you?
yes, he did. Sorry. Am I going too fast for you? All right. All those in favor with the right hand? It carries. Okay. Item C, review, discuss, and consider approval of the minutes of a special called Planning and Zoning Commission meeting held on September 30th, 2024.
I got this kind of late, but I've looked over it briefly, so, and I'd like to end the meeting. So I move the minutes of the special call Planning and Zoning Commission meeting held on September 30th, 2024 be approved as presented.
We have a second?
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Anybody right hand going yes for that one? It's all approved. We're good on that one. We do not have executive session, which is number 6. We don't have to come back from executive session. So request for future agenda items. Do we have any requests for future agendas? I guess not. So we're going to call this meeting at 6:35 adjourned. Thank you guys for coming. Appreciate it.